Hey, Joe Escobedo here, and today I'll be sharing my favorite copywriting tools. Now, at Esco Media, we're doing a lot of B2B copywriting for major tech brands and brands, obviously, in the B2B space. So today I'll be sharing some of my favorites. Now, this one you probably have heard on. This one I think most folks are already using is Grammarly. Now, Grammarly is a great tool to double check whether you want to see if you made a mistake in terms of your grammar or the tone. So this is I believe, a free Chrome extension, so you can install it in yours. I personally don't install it on my computer because it tends to slow down my documents. But I know a lot of folks who are using it quite effectively. So Grammarly, I think, is one that most folks already know about. So I won't go into this in too much detail. The second one, which I think not many people focus on, and this is one I found when I was writing at Forbes, was one called Grandmark.org. Pretty odd name. It looks pretty old school in terms of the layout, but it's pretty powerful. So what I went ahead and did is, I know you guys love your HBR, so I copy and pasted a article from HBR, and I went ahead and I plugged it in here. Then all I have to do is, once I copy and paste the article in here, I just hit submit. And let's see. Okay. So it breaks up your text into a couple different categories. For example, passive voice, wordiness, sentences, transition, academic style, grammar, normalizations, and what's that one? Yeah. So let's go through and see where we could improve on. The ones in green are obviously ones that you're doing. Ones in yellow are ones that we can improve on. So if you go in here, it highlights and it gives you recommendations in terms of replacements. So it says social adjustment aims in mind thinking. The race is at the forefront of. So some of this is not flawless, but at least it'll give you a good idea in terms of where are some of the ones we need to cut or delete or even replace with other words. So it's a pretty helpful tool to help you sharpen your copy, because this is one thing that I'm always constantly telling my team is to cut the fat, trim the fat as much as possible in your copy. And so whatever you do, cut it in half. Good writers do that. Great writers take that and they cut it in half again. So with that in mind, going through here and seeing, okay, what are some of the things we can cut down? For example, the team as a whole. Do you really need it as a whole? You could probably cut that out. And you use the word fact quite a lot as well too. So unless you're actually including facts in there, for example, this one is not, you probably don't need to include the term in fact in there. This is a great tool, like I said, for trimming the fat. Let's go and look at one of this other ones, which are sentences. It also flags things like potential fragments. Now, this I'm guilty of all the time because I write a lot of web copy or online copy. And so I tend to use fragments to make it more conversational. But if you're using it for a more formal article, then you might want to look at perhaps fixing some of these fragments, some sentences. And it goes ahead and highlights those for you right there. So we'll look at, let's see, what's this one? Normalizations. It tries to look at buzzwords and remove them. Although, once again, it's not flawless. It is a free tool. So you get what you pay for. In this case, you're not paying for anything. But usually it'll try to find pretty good words where it thinks you're being too complex. You could probably simplify it, or using buzzwords. Try to highlight that and obviously get you to remove those. Now, obviously, with HBR, you can use a lot of big words because you want to sound really smart. But I think the caveat here is if you can use smaller words, if you can use shorter words, then I highly recommend you do that. So check it out. It's called Grandmark.org. Free tool. I use it all the time. Another one, which I don't think enough people know about, is called HemingwayApp.com. Now, with Hemingway App, it works essentially the same way. This brings up some LARP ipsum in here. And I just went ahead and copied and pasted that text. So once again, I just pulled from this HBR article, copy and pasted it in here. And this is great because, once again, it tells you all of the words and phrases that it thinks are too long, too difficult to read. So in this case, I love this because it gives you a readability. In this case, it's grade 12. Now, that's great if you are a native English speaker who maybe is college educated or has some higher education. That's great. But what about the rest of the world who may not be a native English speaker, who may not have that level of education? Do we want to exclude them? If we're trying to appeal to a very specific crowd and we want to make it a bit more highbrow, like HBR does in some cases, then you may want to keep this grade a little bit higher. I tend to lower it because I want to give the information available to anyone to access it and understand it. So I usually try to aim for a grade 10 or 9. And in this case, what I like is it highlights over here. So the ones in red here or pink here are the sentences that are very difficult to read. And if you look at this is one sentence, which this would be a huge pet peeve for me. I don't know how it got by HBR, but it says when business leaders have social justice in mind, wish to win the war on talent, or embrace the blah 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 blah. So I'm already lost in the beginning. I think for me it's too chunky, and the bot or this app is actually doing the same thing. It's saying, look, this is very difficult to read for most folks. As you can see, like and once again, this is one sentence, which for me is insane because it's basically an entire paragraph. So sometimes when we're writing, we may not actually see that. But when we go in here and the bot or the app actually tells us it, then we go ahead and flag that a little bit better. So once again, this is one example where there are a lot of sentences that could be easily cut down. And this, once again, okay, this is two sentences to their credit, but they're long, chunky sentences. Even for me, a native English speaker with a master's degree, I find it a tad difficult to read and skim through this. So these are the ones that are very hard to read. The ones in yellow are hard to read. The ones in purple, they try to give you simpler alternatives. So in terms of anticipate, you could put expect and effort of. You can just to be helpful. Actually, that's what I would recommend as well too. In an effort to be helpful, his new classmates inquire blah 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 to purchase by once again. So they're using a lot of words, bigger words to I don't know make themselves sound smarter. But I think in reality that actually makes you more difficult to understand to the audience. And here's another big pet peeve of mine is passive voice. So try to use as much active voice as you can. Sometimes you're writing and you don't really notice. So this case, it'll highlight the ones in green. So never be biased. That one's probably okay. But let's say it's considered, maybe unrelated. So these are ones that we might want to try to flag and see how we can reverse engineer those to be more active voice. And then another thing which I try to do to trim the fat is to cut out unnecessary adverbs. Now, adverbs, particularly when you're doing B2B, can be removed for the most part. If you're doing short stories, certain poems and prose, then it makes sense. But for B2B, you probably don't need that many adverbs. If anything, adverbs are filler words that just, once again, dilute the quality of your actual content. So once again, it has radically, reasonably, authentically, actively. Do we need these many adverbs? You know what? I would probably say no. If I was going ahead and I was the HBR editor, I would probably slash this up. But fortunately, I am not. So once again, this is a great tool, free tool. Everything I mentioned so far is free that you can go and try yourself called HemingwayApp.com and see how your content does in here. So copy and paste any of your blog posts, your articles, your white papers, your ebooks, whatever it is. Give it a try. See what grade you're reaching. See what grade you want to be at. You want to be at a 12th grade reading level? Do you want to be more than 9th and 10th? So it's universally appealable to anyone. So for example, I don't even know what this word is. Homeo, homophilia. Okay, see, there you go. This is a great example of what does this actually read. So this is, once again, some of my favorite tools. If I'm missing any, which I'm sure I am, please let me know in the comments because I love finding out about new tools. So if there's any ones that I'm missing in terms of your favorite copy editing tools, do let me know. Thanks so much, Sean. Appreciate the support. Another thing, this is not a tool, but something that I'd recommend as well too. So two quick tips in addition to these tools is to actually go in and read this out. So actually I have another tool in here. Let's see if I can find it real quick. I use text to speech. And it's going to sound a little bit awkward because I'm actually coming through. Let's see the one I use. All right, I use this one because I don't like this to hear the sound of my own voice. So what I go in here is once again, I will copy and paste. Let's say I want to copy and paste just this portion because I'm lazy. So I copy and paste this this is called naturalreaders.com/online. If you just Google text to speech, you can find any of these free tools. Google has one pretty good as well too. And what it does is once again, I copy and paste it. And when I'm reading it, it makes sense. But great copy is copy that is easy to understand when you're listening to it as well too. So let's go ahead and listen to this and see if it sounds natural to us. Oh, it would help if I had some patience, but let me go ahead and try refreshing this and see if that works. If not, we'll go ahead and try the Google. All right, let's see.
Whether business leaders have social justice aims in mind, wish to win the war on talent, or embrace the value creating potential of a diverse workforce, race is at the forefront of everyone's minds. But evidence based strategies and resources on racial diversity and teamwork are few and far between. In fact, a quick search of Proquest, a popular database for articles, revealed 339 scholarly and media articles with team and diversity in the title with only 3 emphasizing racial diversity. That's 1%.
Okay. Now, once again, if someone was saying this at a conference, does this make any sense? Does this sound like something someone would actually say? Probably not. And so, once again, my rule to copywriting is to write the way you actually speak. And this, for me, is strictly written copy. I don't think anyone would actually say this in a conference, at least this way. I like the fact that she has this, or he or she, the author, has this, that's 1%. So you have this long, convoluted sentence, and then you have this short, punchy one that says that's 1%. So this is another tool which you can do. You can either print it out and read it out loud, or you can be lazy like me and you can use a tool called naturalreaders.com/online. Copy and paste your text in there. Go ahead and press the play button and you will hear it. Does it make sense if you're hearing it? If I read it, if I'm listening to it, definitely not. So once again, this is a good tool to sense check. Now, one more thing that I'd recommend, this is not really a tool, but more of a tactic, is going in here and let's say, obviously going in and re-looking at what you've done. But one thing I recommend, because once you get to the end of this, you're probably checked out mentally like I am. So I usually start at the bottom and go up. I look at this paragraph first, and then I'd say, okay, how can I edit that? And then I'd move my way up versus going top down. Because top down, you should focus on this. But I think by the time you get to the very bottom, you probably already checked out mentally. So you can do one round of your review going top to bottom, and then round of review going bottom to top. That's another quick tip in terms of double checking and seeing if you missed any errors. So there's just some quick tips in under 15 minutes. Hopefully that has been helpful. Like I said, if you have any tools, tips, or tactics that I am missing, which I'm definitely sure I am, please let me know in the comments. I would love to learn some new things as well. Hopefully, episode helpful. If you did, feel free to share it with your colleagues, basically anyone who does any type of writing, which is anyone. So thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it. And we'll see you soon. Take care.